gerrymandering. Started by, Stu, can you look this up for me? Is it Eldridge Jerry or Gary? I always thought it was Eldridge Gary.
Yeah, you're remembering that
now
right.
That we've been talking about it.
Yeah,
it is?
It is Eldridge Gary. Yeah, it was. There's a weird quirk, basically, in American history where his name was Eldridge Gary. It was first called gerrymandering, essentially, in a newspaper at the time. People read the newspaper, didn't know how to pronounce his name, started saying gerrymandering, and that's what stuck. So it was actually different than the way his name was pronounced, even though it was named after him.
Yeah, well, that's why you spell your name Gary, not Gerry. I mean, hello.
Lesson learned.
Yes. So gerrymandering is when a salamander-shaped district gave America a new word and a new really bad habit. Okay, and we have perfected this really bad habit. It started about 1815, someplace around there. And it wasn't known as gerrymandering until the mid-1800s when everybody was doing it. Now, here's how bad it has gotten. Today in Massachusetts, 1/3 of the voters choose a Republican, but not one of the 9 House seats. They can choose for president, but 1/3 vote for Republicans, but because the way they have the map set up, you don't get any House seats. So 1/3 of the population has 0 representation. And not because they didn't show up, but because the lines chose first. In Illinois, pretty much the same situation. 47% of voters cast a ballot for Republicans in 2024. 47%. Now, why do we all think that Illinois is so far left in Congress? Why? Because 47%, they didn't get their choice. 47% of the voters cast a ballot for Republicans in 2024, and they got 17% of the seats. Now that's magical. There's some magical forces making that happen. Okay? Now you see competition, poof, now you don't. Maryland. The courts called one map an extreme partisan gerrymander. Why? Well, because there's only one Republican serving in Maryland. Only one. Now, how is that possible? Because there are people that live in Maryland. Only one of the House seats go to a Republican? One? Come on. Now, here's the latest. The governor now says all options are on the table. This is the governor of Maryland. We just played this clip. Can you play it again, please?
Are you actively looking at it now?
Yeah, because I think we have
you
to.
Are.
Yes, and I think we have to, because I think what's happened is this is what people hate about politics in the first place: the fact that the president of the United States, very similar to what he did in Georgia, where he called up a series of voter registrants and said, "I need you to find me more votes." We're watching the same thing now, where he's calling up legislatures around the country and saying, "I need you to find me more congressional districts."
He's doing it. That may be different, but Democrats redistrict. You know this.
Yeah.
But Gavin Newsom's doing it right now. A few years ago in New York, we saw this. This can backfire. Do you really want to go down this road?
I want to make sure that we have fair lines and fair seats, where we don't have situations where politicians are choosing voters, but that voters actually have a chance to choose their elected officials. We need to be able to have fair maps. And we also need to make sure that if the president of the United States is putting his finger on the scale to try to manipulate elections because he knows that his policies cannot win in a ballot box.
So stop. If you don't know anything about Maryland, you would be like, well, that's reasonable. And most people don't know anything about Maryland. Well, that's reasonable. He just wants fair maps and fair lines. Okay, if you really wanted the people to pick, you wouldn't. It's mathematically impossible in Illinois. It's mathematically impossible in Massachusetts and in Maryland to have the representation for the GOP that they have. It's mathematical. Massachusetts has 0 Republicans in the House. 0 in the whole state. 0. Maryland only has 1. And then he says, well, I might have to redistrict. To get rid of the 1? One place where a Republican won, and you want to redistrict that out of existence. That doesn't seem fair to me, right? Okay. This isn't a blue problem. It's not a red problem. It is a power problem. And it has been happening almost since the founding of the country. And it's got to stop. Now, in 2019, the Supreme Court had a decision, said the courts are not going to interfere and they won't referee partisan gerrymandering. Well, that was a message that was sent to everybody, very clear. Do what you want. Draw what you can. Draw what you can get away with. And so they did. Now, in Texas, this all started because Texas, which, by the way, the census, these are all based on the census, or they're supposed to be. But for the very first time, the 2020 census was rigged. And that it was not fair. When you have Texas, think of this. I just want you to think about this logically. Texas in, 2020? Texas in 2020 had lost people or had not gained any citizens? What planet are you living in? Texas is growing by leaps and bounds as it was in 2015, 2010. You're telling me nothing, no new growth. Wow, that's amazing. So Texas is trying to correct this problem where they fix the census. Okay. Now, the left is shouting, outrage, this is crazy. I can't believe they're doing it. It's an arms race of hypocrisy. It really is. It really is. Which one could launch the biggest hypocritical missile? I'm not sure. I can just tell you this ends. It ends where legitimacy ends. When somebody will look up in one of these states and say, this is, and with real facts on their side, that's not representative of me. The House of Representatives, that's not representative of my district, of my state. You can draw a district any way you want, cut us all apart so you can't have a Republican in. You've been doing that forever. Here's the thing. Safe seats. That's what everybody wants, a safe seat. Safe seats do not create better leaders. They create unaccountable leaders. Let me say it again. Safe seats do not create better leaders. They create unaccountable leaders. Why? Because a safe seat doesn't reward persuasion. You don't have to persuade anybody. They reward purity tests. This is why we have become so incredibly extreme. It's why everybody wonders why the center feels like it's collapsing, Every compromise feels like a betrayal because you're not dealing with people. You're dealing with people who are extremes, okay? So what do? Well, there's a couple of solutions. One, independent map making. Yeah, that's going to work. Put the pens in the citizens' hands. Oh, good. Michigan, Arizona, California, they have shown independent or court-drawn maps reduce extremes and increase competition. Okay. Maybe. California has an independent committee. This was passed by the people, voted for. People were like, you know what? We want fair districts. Okay. But at the first time of trouble, don't worry. They'll violate that, as you're seeing with California. You have the governor of California coming out, and we're going to redraw all of them because they don't care about the voices of the people in those districts. They care about the Democrat voice in Congress. So the governor's going around it. And it'll only be stopped if the people of California stand up. Are they going to? I don't know. Now, if we don't solve this at the local and state level, believe me, there are going to be people in Congress that want to change the rules, and the left is already working on it. It's called the Fair Representation Act. Stu, they already have an act. It's the Fair Representation Act.
I like fair representation.
Right? It's about representation, and it's going to be fair. See what could go wrong with this. They just reintroduced it this summer. It would use independent commissions, multi-member districts, and ranked choice voting for the House. Oh, ranked choice voting? What could possibly go wrong with ranked choice voting? Why is that a problem, Stu?
Well, currently the Democrats really love ranked choice voting because it's benefited them mostly, and that's just a small part, of course, of that particular act. But basically, if you unless the other team is smart enough to actually understand the rules of it, which so far the Republicans have not been, they will nominate people that will split their own vote, and you'll wind up with someone who is not the majority candidate wound up winning the seat.
Yeah, really bad idea. Really bad idea. So may I make a suggestion on how we fix this? And I would like to base this on Moses. Moses already did this, okay? He divided people in hundreds and fifties and tens. I want you to think of the United States under one big tent, okay? One big tent. Let's say we look at the United States as a big block, and we want to put everybody under a tent, but we can't put them under one big tent. So let's say we put them in tents of 100 or 1,000 or 5,000. And we think of the map as you have to have a tent over these people. All right, well, I know we have 4 corners, and we put a stake in the ground. In those 4 corners, we build a tent. And then we build a tent right next to that one that holds the same amount of people, and we put 4 stakes in the ground, and we build another tent. In other words, each district has to have 4 straight lines, just like a tent. It's just a box. Okay? It can be a rectangle. However you want to design it, that is fine, but it is just a box. And when that box becomes too full, you split it in half. And now it becomes 2 boxes. And you keep splitting them until there are more and more boxes. The more the population grows, the more boxes there are. Okay? It's really easy. Do you know what that would do? It could mean that in some districts, a couple of apartment buildings, not snaked all the way around the city and into the countryside, but a few apartment buildings in New York City, right in a 4-block area, that might be a district. What does that do? That means the people who are representing the people in that apartment complex, that 4-block radius, he has to know that 4-block area. That's his deal. He's not snaking around, going around everywhere else. He knows those people. He represents just those people, not people 5 blocks away, just maybe 4 blocks away. And 4 blocks in each direction. That way you don't have these people who don't have any idea. They don't look like you. I mean, far as the way you vote, they don't vote like you do. They don't, they're not some sort of foreigner from a different area of town. They know what your issues are. If we did that and we made everything in just squares, you would localize much more in a much better way, but you would also stop all the extremes. Because unless everybody in that 4-block radius is an extremist isn't going to win. An extremist Republican, extremist Democrat, extremists aren't going to win because most people aren't like that. That's why the gerrymandering thing happens, because you can have people on one side of the street in one district, people on the other side of the street in another district, and then it snakes up 4 blocks, and then it makes a hard left, then it goes straight up for another street, then there's a big bubble at the top of it where a whole bunch of blocks are included. That makes no sense. That's making a safe seat. Again, safe seats do not reward anything. they create extremism.